I would say that you have to treat your residents as if they are the owners of your asset. Because all too often, Chris, if you were an owner of ours and you came to our property and we know you were coming, we'd make sure everything's clean and everything looks tip-top shape. And then what? These management companies go back to their normal operating mishaps once the owner leaves, or if management visits, right? Yep. And so it's a misconception, right? Because your owners are actually living on your property every single day.
Teddy, thank you for being
Yeah,
here.
appreciate it, Chris.
Always good to see you.
Thank you.
You know, there's people out there that when you see them, you are excited and pumped, and we talk about things that give you energy and things that take away energy. You are one of those people.
Appreciate it.
Of that, I think about reputation and how people talk about you behind your back. We're in a business that is about trust, managing tens of millions, hundreds of millions, in your case, $1 billion of AUM of commercial real estate, housing, and you know, people take great trust and put it in your hands. I want to know what is your secret to building an impeccable reputation, so when people are talking about you, and I mean you, Teddy, when you're not in the room, they say, "I love Teddy." What is that secret?
You know, I think it's part of it is treating their capital as if it's your capital. You know, at the fundamental foundation of investment, you know, that fiduciary aspect of treating your money as if it was my money. And so that way, that trust is built through the ability to know that I'm going to be a good steward of your asset, of your investment, and you know that I'm going to do the best that I can to ensure that that investment is safe, right, or preserved. You know, that's one of the secret sauces of our company. You know, we don't necessarily bid on every single property that comes up for sale, and you know, we're very opportunistic in that regard, and we're picky at that because we want to be very selective with the capital that we represent. You know, and I think being opportunistic and selective like that gives us, you know, that ability to pick the right investments the first time, then maybe pick the wrong investment just out of haste, or you know, the ability to just make a quick decision to get an investment rolling. You know,
so paying more long term versus the short term dollar, less transactional, more focused on, am I the right fit? Sounds like I'm even hearing disqualifying someone.
Yeah, and it can be short term. But I think the parameters by which you set forth the investment in the first place need to be correct, and you need to be aligned with the capital that you represent.
So obviously, it's you know one of the greatest things I've ever learned is that you know you can take years to build a reputation, as we've seen. Some people take one day to ruin that. Any things you've learned from people in the past? You know, people out there who you've worked for, or others who have been a mentor to you that have taught you about building that reputation, building that trust, and then obviously being honest and open with other people.
Yeah, probably one of the most underrated skills in business is kindness. Right? It doesn't cost you anything additional. And it's definitely a skill that's not practiced often enough. And so when I'm trying to, you know, close on a lease, or we're trying to close on a client, you know, the single best difference is how we make that client feel. And them knowing that, you know, whether or not we get the deal, you know, we're cordial and we're kind, and we say, hey, you know, whenever, you know, the need arises, we'll be ready to kind of serve you, right? And I think that sometimes is the most underrated skill, right?
And is it, to your point, sometimes it's not even trying to be perfect, it's more about being there to support, being there to listen, being there when something goes wrong. Knowing that something's going to go right. That's the greatest thing I've ever learned, is not to say it's going to be perfect, but instead say, something's going to go wrong, and here's how I'm going to be different in that situation.
And this is how I'm going to approach it, right? Most of the time, most people think that property management should just be 100%, you know, this is how you do it. But obviously, you know, we're humans, and, you know, things happen at our properties, and it's all about, I think, our response and how we have empathy associated with whatever issue occurs at our properties. Can mean the difference on whether or not our tenants and our residents have a positive experience or not. We talk about, you know, the secret sauce associated with what we would do different. And I think, if you had to wrap it up into one centralized, thought, I would say that you have to treat your residents as if they are the owners of your asset. Because all too often, Chris, like if you were an owner of ours and you came to our property and we know you were coming, we'd make sure everything's clean and everything looks, tip-top shape. And then these management companies kind of go back to their normal operating mishaps once the owner leaves, or if management visits, right?
Yep.
And so it's a misconception, right? Because your owners are actually living on your property every single day.
24 hours a day.
And they're the ones who are actually creating the value associated with your asset. They're not going to continue to invest in living there if they don't feel like that's their home or that you even care about their home.
Yeah, 100%. I think there's a massive difference in retail. You think of a lot of office spaces, but the difference I think with apartment buildings is that you're right, people are there with their kids. They're raising their families, they're there at night, they're sleeping there. How do you think about that in real life connection, both at the property level, but also at the relationship level when you're doing business? Do you believe in real life is it more important than ever with AI? Or do you believe that moving to remote, which side of the aisle are you on?
I think that AI is definitely needed in our business, and we need to embrace it as the new technology of this new generation and this era. But it can't be a replacement to what we're already doing. It can be a supplement, right? The conversations that I have with my residents, AI will not be able to do that. They will not be able to convince the person in a specific apartment to renew their lease if there is no connection there in the first place, right? And so, I think that rapport that you create, that human interaction that you create with your residents is probably by far the most important thing you can do. And AI is there to supplement that outreach. I thought I read a statistic about the majority of the leasing that occurs at a leasing office occurs between 8 p.m. and 3 in the morning most of the time. Because if you have a workforce or multifamily component to your asset, they're all working till maybe 6 o'clock, and then maybe the office closes around that time. So when are they ever going to interact with office staff unless you intentionally go to their door and, from a resident programming or a resident interaction standpoint, make that connection with them. So AI supplements that conversation, and you as the human follow up and close on that interaction.
Love it. What's one thing you'd like to leave us with on the happiness aspect, or how important is that? Because I don't think AI can really make you happy per se,
no,
right? But people can. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I started in property management because I saw that there was a need to protect a legacy for someone else that had, this property, right? It was a one property owner. He had purchased this property, and it's not like he was an institutional owner or, an equity fund or anything like that, but it was a one property owner, and he needed to protect a legacy. And so by me doing the best I could to protect that legacy for him, I thought that was more important than anything, because it's, he's protecting his generational wealth. And I understand that now. By having my kids of my own, I'm creating a legacy for my own children. And so why wouldn't you want someone that is working just as hard to protect their own legacy, work to protect your own legacy?
Love that. Love these drops. Thanks for doing this.
Absolutely. Thanks.
I'll look forward to your next one. We'll do it again soon in Atlanta. So thanks for meeting up with me.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks.